Heyo, who dat, and what is up? I am Jeff Nowak. This is Inside Black and Gold, and we have a returning guest host today. It's been a while. We got Deven Johnson back in. We're going to talk about a lot. How you doing, Deven? How you feeling?
Man, I'm good. I'm feeling good. It's my first time back. I finally got me a haircut.
Nice.
It's the middle of the summer, so the heat is picking up quite literally, but also in terms of the football season. So I'm excited. I'm happy to be back, Jeff.
Yeah, I know this time of year, I always feel sick because like my body takes a while. Like I kind of feel gross and I'm like, am I sick? And like, oh no, it's just that it takes a while for my body to adjust to 100% humidity. Like that's genuinely what it is. Like I wake up feeling like I have like West Nile virus or Lyme disease. And I'm just like, I spend like an hour like being like, am I dying? And then like, oh no, it's just the weather.
That's all it is. It literally has me nasally now. Like I woke up yesterday, I'm fine. Then yesterday, later the same day, my nose is burning, and then it's like, oh, it's coming. You just know when it's coming. You get
it's humans weren't meant to live in this, but we do. And you grew up here, so you have a much better grasp on it than I do. But all right, this is the first time we've had you on for a live episode, so it's going to be a little weird. I talked about this on our last episode. I apologize for our last live episode, which cut off midstream because StreamYard crashed and we just kind of disappeared, like in Space Jam when all the Looney Tunes walk off the screen, and we're like, where? That's what it was, because Steve and I just disappeared, and the stream kept going, but we never came back. So this is going to be kind of a different type of episode. We're going to start off with a segment here at the top and then roll into an interview that I did with Scott Shanle for the podcast audience, the podcast player audience. For the YouTube audience, we're going to roll directly into a mailbag. So get your comments, questions in there. If you're listening to this on the pod, you will get that mailbag in a separate episode later on once I actually have time to produce it and edit it and make it sound all pretty. But we're trying to do some different things with the new format. So just stick with us. This first segment, we're going to get into which Saints players have the most to prove in the 2025 season, 2025 training camp. You could also say which players have the most to lose, because I think that's really what we're going to talk about. But I do want to get into some news first, and we'll just run on this for a couple minutes and then hit an ad break and then go directly into that segment. But a few signings. The Saints signed some players. Are you ready? You ready for some hot names?
Hot, sure. Yes.
No, they will be hot when they get here, because we're talking about Seth Green, not the Seth Green, not the Seth Green of like Family Guy or like Rat Race. We're talking about Seth Green of the Arlington Renegades. Wow. It's a tight end. Have you even heard that name before?
I've never heard of him. I have not. I really have. I haven't heard of him. The Arlington Renegades.
Yeah, it's a UFL. They signed 2 UFL players, Seth Green and then Barry Wesley of the Birmingham Stallions. He's an offensive tackle. I think if you looked up the term camp body in the dictionary, you could put these 2 names next to him and you'd be like, all right, camp body.
Camp body?
Camp bodies right there. That's what these guys are.
That's crazy.
You got 90 roster spots. Someone's got to be there. But yeah, the Saints were at 88 and they are now at 90 because Derek Carr, Ryan Ramczyk retired.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Now, one thing to keep in mind, the Saints have not signed Tyler Shuck yet. So
that's interesting.
They will need to make a roster spot. I think what the Saints are going to do is put Taysom Hill on the PUP list at the start of camp, which will effectively clear a roster spot for one more player, which will be Tyler Shuck. So I think what they're going to do is hold off on signing Tyler until that roster spot clears, finish out that contract, and then you don't have to cut anybody. But the guy, Seth Green, is interesting, and he's interesting for one reason, and we don't have to talk about it for very long. He came into college, he went to Minnesota as a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He then kind of transitioned into a wildcat receiver. He took snaps under center and then ultimately transitioned to the tight end position, which he now plays in the UFL, or he did play in the UFL. So I wouldn't be surprised if the plan is to have him kind of simulate Taysom Hill.
Right.
For the amount of time Taysom Hill cannot participate, so that you can at least install the Taysom Hill part of the playbook with the rest of the team so that when Taysom Hill is actually able to go, it's not starting from jump.
Yeah.
Like, that's my logic of why you even bring in Seth Green in the first place.
I mean, honestly, from what you said, he sounds a little bit like UFL Taysom / Tyler Warren. I'm here for it.
Yeah, and I mean, the Saints do love to transition players to the tight end role, right? Like Deven Johnson wasn't a tight end when he came into the NFL. He's a tight end now. Taysom Hill wasn't a tight end when he came into the NFL. He's a tight end now. So, it is what it is. But hey, we'll keep rolling on that. Couple other things. Tracy Porter, Brett Maxey are your new Saints Hall of Famers. They're going to go in December 14th, which is the home game against the Panthers. And I do want to mention, I know because you have a connection to Ed Daniels. He's the Joe Gimelli Award winner for this year. Ed obviously passed away last year around this time. He was out covering training camp in Irvine on his own dime.
Yes.
When a heart attack and eventually passed away from that. So I thought it was really cool to see them honor him in that way. And my first reaction was like, I mean, the Ed Daniels Award of something or other will be there eventually, right? Like, it's only a matter of time before you have the Joe Gimelli and Ed Daniels Awards given out.
Yeah, no, that's sensational. Congratulations to Mr. Ed. It's crazy to think, to this day, I still tell so many people about how ingratiating he was, how he made people feel welcomed, how he allowed people to really get a start, and the one thing that he told me is, Dev, make sure you show up in life. If you don't do anything else, just show up. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget those valuable moments and going to the training camp with him, interviewing players for the first time. So that's sensational. Congratulations to Mr. Daniels. And he really has left a great legacy of upcoming journalists, writers, analysts, all kinds of things. So, he's left a big imprint. He deserves it.
No question. And, we're getting close to camp. Camp is going to break on July 22nd. Rookies are going to report a few days earlier, but we're getting close. And so we're going to talk about who has the most on the line when that does get here. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and get into the defense first. We're going to break it up. Top 3 on defense, top 3 on offense. It's Devin's list, so send your complaints to him if you disagree. This is Inside Black and Gold. We will be right back. You like our music? We're getting fancy.
You noticed that, huh? Yeah, I had a little foot tap going, a little head nod.
Hop into it. All right. This is Inside Black and Gold. Coming back in, this first segment is going to be defense and which players have the most to prove when training camp rolls around. We're gonna keep it to the top 3. I think we should try to keep it to one player per position, but you made a list, so I'm gonna let you roll with it. Deven, who and did you rank them, or are we just going the 3 players with the most to prove before we get into it?
I'm gonna be honest. I did rank these guys. Okay. To be honest with you,
let's start with number 3 on your list.
Number 3. It's funny you say that. I'll be going with a 3rd-year player. Number 3 on my list of defensive players that need to improve the most is Bryan Bresee. I love Bryan Bresee. I loved him ever since we got him out of Clemson. I like him, I liked him, I would say, pre-draft, specifically as a big athletic pass rushing D tackle. I would say in the 2 years that we've had him, we've seen some of that progression in terms of his pass rush. But I feel like, Bresee has yet to maybe make that definitive leap of being a defensive tackle that you can build a line around. There and I think that last year I feel like we saw some improvement in terms of the pass rush, but we need to see more in the run stopping area. And then the consistency. I just feel like, he would have some games where he would flash. He had the game where he blocked the field goal, had some sacks, had a game ending sack. but then he would have games where he would disappear. So I love Brian Bresee. I love what we've seen from him. I just think this is the year where he proves that, okay, is he one of those guys like a Dexter Lawrence, a Quinnen Williams, even Jalen Carter, to where this he's a top 5 to top 10 D tackle. Could he get prove that? But I like what I've seen so far. But I think that's where I'm at with Brian Bresee. Is just like, okay, is he really a premier defensive tackle that we should keep in the long term?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that he has a much better opportunity to showcase what he does best in this new scheme. Like, I think he's always been a 3-4 defensive end.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, he fell in the draft and the Saints took him because the talent was too good to pass on and they did need a defensive tackle. But he's not a 4-3 defensive tackle. Like, he does not, like, he's a good pass rushing defensive tackle.
Yeah.
And he kind of showcased that, but he got moved in the run game way too much. And I do still want to see him improve in the run game, but I don't think it's as important in this new role for him because there's just going to be a lot more bodies to kind of throw at the run game. And I think you want one of your defensive tackles to be getting upfield and going after the quarterback in this kind of new format. And he should be that, right? Like, I think there's a chance for him to thrive. There's also a chance for him to fall off a cliff. And then suddenly you go into a contract year and you're just like, okay, what do we have here?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that's a great point. I definitely like that point about surrounding him, Divine Godchild, Vernon Broughton, drafting him. I definitely like the size that we're surrounding Bresee with. So I definitely agree. And, those are kind of the things that can be hard to see maybe in present time. You look at the measurables of a guy like Brian Bresee, he's 6'5", 300 pounds. You say physically he looks like he can play defensive tackle, but you're right. On the field, he's definitely more of a 3 tech in a 3-4 alignment. So I agree.
I keep forgetting Vernon Broughton is here. It's mainly because we haven't seen anything with even helmets on from either side of the line. But so okay, let's move forward. Okay, so Brian Bresee's number 3. Who's number 2 on your list?
So number 2, I have a linebacker. I have Pete Werner. I have Pete Werner, and I know this might be interesting because he's been here for a little bit. But we're in an interesting phase, I would like to say, in terms of our linebacker core. DeMario, he's literally on his last legs. Like, it's only so much longer that we can demand the greatness that he's shown. And eventually we're going to need a leader. And, I like Pete Werner. I think he's a very smart linebacker. He's versatile. But can he prove himself to potentially take up the mantle of being that middle linebacker? Playing alongside DeMario, I feel like definitely mask a lot of his deficiencies. But this year, let's say DeMario misses time or whatever the case, I just want to see, can Pete Werner be that kind of guy in the middle? And it's important. I don't think middle linebackers understood for its importance, but those guys usually get the alignment right for the defense. They receive calls. They're obviously all over the field in the run and the pass game. So I'm looking forward to see what Pete Werner does in this year.
Yeah, he's been wearing the green dot in some of these practices because DeMario has been like less involved, especially at OTAs. So it's an interesting thing because Bresee, I think, has a lot to prove because you have to decide in a couple of years whether you're going to pay him on a big contract, right? Whereas Werner, you already extended, so he's in the first year of a 3-year extension, so he's going to be part of that plan, regardless of what happens this year. So you could argue that like he doesn't have a ton to prove because of that. But I think what he has to prove is that, okay, DeMario, who I think is in his last year with the Saints, I think this will be his final season. I don't know if it's his final season in the NFL, but I think this is his final season with the Saints. And what you need to get the answer from for Werner is, okay, does he become the kind of linchpin linebacker of this defense, or are you forced to go out after this year and find that guy?
Yeah.
Like your version of DeMario who can kind of take over and lead that defense.
Yeah.
You don't want to pay what you're paying Pete for your kind of second fiddle linebacker. You want him to be kind of your star middle linebacker. And now obviously in a 3-4, it's not as defined in that a middle and a weak side and then a Sam, but it is still important. Like I still need that kind of Mike linebacker because right now I don't know if he can do that.
Yeah. And some things about Pete Werner, it's not necessarily going to change. Like he's not the biggest guy. He's dealt with some injuries, but he's durable and he shows heart. So he's definitely shown that he can play. But like you say, can he be that linchpin? That's to be seen. But I think he's been a pretty good player, and I would even say he's been one of the more underrated players of our defense in the last few years.
Yeah, he is on the smaller side. When you see him in person, it's not, and I think that's just the NFL now is like, you don't have these big hulking linebackers with the neck rolls anymore. Like you got to be able to run. And that's the only question I have is whether he is physically big enough to be that like strong side linebacker,
right?
To fill gaps in the run game. He's very instinctive. He gets to spots, but I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if he's physically capable of holding up in that part of the game. One more on this segment, the number one player on the defense with the most to prove. Who is it?
Oh yeah, it's easy. Number one is Alontae Taylor. I feel like Alontae has been a little bit polarizing, maybe since we first saw him in his rookie season. He came out in his rookie season and he showed out against the Raiders. He had an outstanding game against Devontae Adams, shadowing him on the outside. Over the next 2 seasons,
don't forget who's the quarterback for that game.
Oh wow, Derek Carr.
It was Derek Carr. Saints
That's
shut out
crazy.
the Raiders.
That is crazy, Derek Carr. Wow.
And Dennis Allen was so impressed that he was like, "That's my quarterback. Bring him in."
Right. As he's watching Devontae get shut down by a rookie Alontae, but that's that's another story. But Alontae Taylor is I love. There are a lot of things intangibly that I love about Alontae Taylor. He plays with a lot of charisma. You see his fire. You definitely see his passion. But I feel in terms of his play, especially switching between alignments the last 2 years, it's been hard to kind of define what kind of corner he is. And I think that this year he's finally entering that spotlight in terms of being, I guess, our de facto designated number one corner with the absence of Adebo and Lattimore. So I feel like, he has a lot to prove. And corner is a position to where if you play well, you get paid well. You play average or you play poorly is going to severely impact your contract. So I think that, let's say Alontae has a significant improvement on the outside or the slot or wherever, he can find himself definitely getting paid along some of the more talented corners in the league. And I think he has a talent. I just think it's more of a consistency thing. And like I say, switching alignments, maybe it seems easy to a lot of people, but it truly isn't. So hopefully, this year, if he sticks to being in the slot, we can see him truly man down in the slot.
Yeah, I was talking to Scott Shanle about this, and we're going to play that interview in this version of the podcast. Now it's going to post separately on the YouTube channel, but and he was something he was saying, and I agree with him. It's like, teams just don't want to pay nickel cornerbacks for whatever reason.
Yeah,
and I think that has to change, right?
Yeah.
Like I think if you're going to run a scheme like this, and you're going to have your nickel corner on the field all the time, and you want him to be the guy blitzing and dropping into coverage and dealing with big bodies and tight ends and being basically the linchpin of your defense and moving around and having all of these assignments, going outside when you need him outside, going inside when you need him inside, you got to pay that guy. And that's the issue I have is like, okay, what is your view for Alontae? Because I see him as the future star of this secondary. I know there's coverage stats that people don't like. I think you have to look at him at 2 separate positions. One is the outside corner after a year of working inside, where he was supposed to be the inside corner, and then he struggled as the number one outside corner. Okay.
Yeah.
Then you had the year where he was the nickel corner, and you started him out at outside corner and then suddenly threw him into the slot and said, good luck, kid. And he struggled there. But it's like he is at his best when you give him a position and let him own it.
Yes.
And he's being gracious enough to actually do that, right? Like guys don't want to be taken from the outside and thrown inside because they know they're not going to get paid.
Exactly.
So I think it's time for the Saints to kind of change their philosophy. And I think when you're saying he has the most to prove, he has to prove to the Saints that he can thrive in this role. Because I think if he does, then they pay him prior to the season, just like they did with Pete Werner last year.
Yeah.
Like they give him an extension now because that extension is going to be a lot more expensive. And what the Saints can do is get in on the ground floor, because once teams start coming around to the idea that slot corners deserve to get paid the way outside corners do, then he's going to get a lot more expensive. I want to be the first team to do that and lock him up for 3 to 4 years so that contract ends up being a steal. Because I think inside corners are, you need them. Like think about how this defense was when CJ was manning the middle. And, CJ is, kind of a head case, and it's like no team wants to keep him around. That tells you how crazy he was. That as good of a player he is, no one wants to keep him around. He's on the Texans now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
This defense was so much different when he was in there and willing to, because you have to be willing to be made to look bad, right?
Yeah.
You have to be willing to go up and stick your nose in against the guy that's gonna run you over.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. But I agree with you. I think he has a lot to prove, but I also think he's gonna prove it.
I think so too. And that's one thing I can say is like maybe out of the 3 listed, I'm the most confident in Alontae Taylor's fortune this upcoming season. I mean, I just feel like the flashes have been too brilliant. And he's done it in every season. I mean, last year he, like you say, he started the season off. He was our team leader in sacks the first few weeks.
Well, he had 3 in week 1. People keep saying that, but he had 4
Oh
sacks.
He did. But I guess it's more so, it's speaking more so to his ability to be successful in different utilizations. Like he's aggressive as a tackler. He comes in hot on blitzes. He's fast. He's very athletic. He has good lengths. I think that Alontae has it. And I think you hit it on the head with, it's just about Alontae proving what he is for the team. And I think he can do that.
No question. And I'm kind of joking, but because you don't get sacks as an outside corner, you get sacks as a nickel corner, and he only played nickel for the first 5 games, and then he was outside. So it is what it is. He did get 3 sacks in a game, so he has that ability. But all right, let's wrap up this segment. We're gonna come back. We're going to switch sides of the ball, talk about the 3 players on offense with the most to prove. If you're in here on YouTube, make sure to drop in your questions, comments for the mailbag to close out the show. We'll get to as many as possible. Until then, I'm Jeff Nowak. He is Deven Johnson. You can follow me at Jeff_Nowak. You can follow him at Dev John Sports over there on X. And you can also follow the show at Saints_pod. It is the slow time, but we're still talking. So stick around. We'll be right back. All right, coming back in on Inside Black and Gold, Jeff Nowak, Deven Johnson. We are live on the YouTubes, and we are going through the Saints players with the most to prove or most to lose. Like, you could look at it either of those ways, because, if you don't prove it, especially for some of these guys on offense, you have opportunities that are going to fly out the window very quickly. So Deven, let's just dive right in. We're going to do the same way. We're going to do top 3. We're going to start 3, go 2, then 1. Who is the number 3 player on your list? Saints offensive players with the most approved, and go.
Yeah. So number 3, I mean, we kind of talked about this, but I'm going to have to go with, I'm looking at this on the lose side. It's Spencer Rattler. Rattler. And, it's unfortunate because if you're Spencer Rattler, it's like this is a position that you would want to be in, but because of the circumstances, it's unfortunate. But he has a chance to prove himself to be a starting quarterback in the NFL for the Saints last year. Statistically, we didn't win a game with him, but he also he didn't play with players who are accustomed to being on the field. So there has to be some kind of slack that was given to Spencer Rattler. He did have some flashes last year. Of course, he made some plays. He showed mobility and his ability to scramble. And he also showed confidence. He played aggressively. And I think, going into this year, he definitely had a lot that he can work with. So I think that Spencer Rattler has a lot to prove, but he also has a lot to lose. And you kind of helped steer the ship clear with me on this. But, in terms of a guy like Spencer Rattler, a 6-foot quarterback drafted in the 5th round, if he has a season that goes south of what he planned, then he could potentially lose his ability to start again in the NFL. So that's a big, duality, I guess, to balance. Prove that you're the guy or prove that you can't play. So I think Rattler has big shoes.
Yeah, right. Like, it's a huge opportunity for him, but like he has to earn that. Like, he has to go out and show that it's worth giving him that opportunity. And that's why, like, I wouldn't go with Tyler Shuck here because, I don't think he has a ton to prove this year in the sense that, even he could go out and look terrible. All that's going to be received as is like, oh, he's a rookie, he's learning, give him a chance, and that's the right way to do it. Like, you don't either show up as a rookie and be a star or nothing. He's going to have a lot of grace that Spencer, just by virtue of his draft position, by virtue of the new regime and him not being drafted by it, he doesn't have that luxury. He either shows up this year or, he may never get another chance to start in the NFL.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of it for a 5th round pick. And that's why, like, if I'm Spencer, it's like, if there is a level of locked in that I have never been before, I'm going to get there. Yeah. Because like, you look at, like, I think Spencer most likely has the ceiling of a career backup. And I think some people would look at that as a negative. I don't think it is a negative. I think there's a lot worse things to be than a career backup in the NFL. But look at some career backups. Like, look at a Chase Daniel. I talked about this before. Chase Daniel has 5 career starts. He played in the NFL for 10 years. He had a wildly successful backup quarterback career in the NFL. He started 5 games in his career. I think I held up 4 fingers. I meant 5. Luke McCown, another guy. I think he started like 9 games, right? Yeah. Like, there are guys who you feel like are always in the realm of, hey, we want them on our team because if we need them in a pinch, they're going to deliver for us. No one ever looked at Chase Daniel or Luke McCown and said, like, maybe that guy will develop into our starter.
Right.
Like a Mike Glennon. Once you lose that first chance, once one team quits on you, it's incredibly rare to get back to that point. Sam Darnold is the exception. Geno Smith is the exception. Yeah. But I don't think before last year, anyone gave Sam Darnold a chance to go and be a starter. Before Geno got to Seattle, I remember Ben McAdoo got fired because he benched Eli Manning to like, let's see what Geno's got. Like, that's where he was viewed at that point. Yeah. And Spencer is on that cusp of being either, okay, you can, and a 5th round pick is tough, but like, a Baker Mayfield, right? Like, where it's like, okay, either they believe in you or they don't, and your best chance is to sign a deal where you're set up to fail and maybe you buck the odds, right? Like, but more likely you're just the guy that teams bring in as like, okay, well, he's started games, and if we have to play him, it's not the end of the world. So like, that's a big swing. And
it is.
For duality, that's what it is. It's like you have a chance to either go out there and win a starting job or potentially never start a game again in your life.
Yeah.
That's
and
a
it's
lot.
just like, what's the bar for that? Like that the duality is so, I guess, obscure. It's like, what does he have to do to prove himself more than lose himself? If we win 7 games with Rattler as the quarterback, okay, is he good enough? But it's like, if we lose, if we win 3 games, I think he loses. So yeah, it's a fine line to walk.
I think it's you were kind of going into the Eminem song. It was like, lose yourself in the music, the moment.
You in the moment, you
better never let it go.
You only got one shot. That's crazy.
Just saying. I'm just saying. If I was Spencer Rattler and they let me pick the playlist, that's the song I'm throwing on there. Yeah. All right. We went pretty heavy on that, but I agree. It's like, that's what makes this quarterback competition fascinating. Because if I'm the Saints, I'm okay with a scenario where I say, hey, Spencer, you got like a 10-game runway here. Yeah. And I know that sounds like a lot, but like, I'm okay with that, because if he gets to the end of that 10 games, it means he played well enough to get to the end of that 10 games.
That's true.
And if you're not in a position, that's where you hit the bye, you come back, and you have the potential to throw Tyler Shuck in a situation where he has 7 games to close out the season with a lot less pressure than going in week 1. Because even if you're a rookie, you go in week 1 and it's like, you're probably not going to succeed, but you're put in a position where if you don't succeed, you blow the season. Yeah. Right. Yeah, let Spencer blow this season.
Yeah.
Give him that chance. And I'm not, and I say that as a joke. If I'm Spencer, I'm be like, yeah, give me the chance to blow the season.
Right.
Because if I don't, suddenly that's a massive thing for me in my career. And if I do, okay, maybe I am a career backup. Right. But then you're talking about a guy with 16 starts. That's not the worst thing to have as a backup quarterback who started 16 NFL games, even if they haven't gone well. Yeah. But all right. We went long on that. So let's move forward. Who is number 2 on your list? Saints offensive players with the most to prove this offseason.
This one is hard. But I'm gonna have to go with Big Penning, Trevor Penning.
Big Pen.
I gotta go with Big Pen. And Trevor Penning, I have to give him credit, because I feel like he proved some things last year, but he didn't prove enough. And when you factor in us getting Kelvin Banks, a natural left tackle, Talise Fuaga moving back to his position, the onus is now on Trevor Penning to not be the weakest link. And depending on how well he plays this year, we can see that. We will see that. I feel more confident, in our O-line beginning this season than I did last year, to be honest. I really do. The more that I've seen Banks, I like Fuaga, obviously. I'm praying for the health of McCoy, Ruiz, etc. Trevor Penning has to step up, and he's playing a new role. So, he has to prove that, he's worth keeping. And that's just plain and simple. He has to prove that we don't have to shuffle him position-wise or team-wise. And that's just plain and simple. So I have Trevor Penning as number 2. And it's pretty hard because, I know he's not like a star necessarily, but he was a first-round pick. And he's someone that we traded up to get. So I still hold that in high regard. So, yeah.
No, I agree with you. There's a lot of players you could have gone with here. But, it's interesting because on defense, it's more the players that need to prove themselves to the team.
Yeah.
And on offense, it seems to be the theme is more players that need to prove that they should have a career in the NFL.
Yes.
Right? Like Spencer wants to prove he can be a starter and not just a backup. I think that's the same thing holds true for Trevor, right? The difference is Trevor's in a contract year. So but I think this is the year where he either proves he can be a starting guard in the NFL or if he's going to be a career backup in the NFL. Yeah. Right? Because I think he proved last year that he's good enough at tackle that he's your backup. You're okay with it, right?
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Is he your starting right tackle? I think you can do better.
Yeah.
But look at who the Saints backups are right now. Could he be better than a Landon Young? Probably, right?
Yeah.
But if you have to pay him on a full legit contract, no, you wouldn't do that. He would get the same type of contract as a Landon Young, which is like a 1-year minimum deal. Now, can you be a Mekhi Becton? right? Like Mekhi Becton was a guy who was kind of wandering around in the wilderness of like, I'm going to be living on minimum contracts the rest of my career. Then the Eagles threw him at guard. He succeeded, and suddenly he's signing a 2-year, $20 million deal with the Chargers.
Yeah.
Right. So that's like, if he can prove that he's that guy, then that's big for him. I think either way, the Saints might be out on him. So like, just like the Eagles were out, like the Eagles didn't pay Mekhi Becton, but they put him in a situation to get paid.
And he got a ring.
Yeah. And if he is a successful addition at guard, maybe you do pay him, maybe you do keep him around. Either way, that makes your offensive line a much different looking unit. So I agree with you. Let's move forward. We've talked a ton about Trevor, so we don't need to get too far in the weeds on Trevor. Let's get to your number one player on your list for offense.
Man, if it's no surprise, this one has to be easy. I have to go with Chris Olave.
Okay.
Chris Olave is my number one player offensively for the Saints in terms of how much they have to prove. And Chris Olave, maybe I've said this about everyone, but Chris Olave specifically, I truly love Chris Olave. I think that he has maybe experienced some of the most unfortunate hits I've ever seen. It is crazy. Like, I literally watched a compilation today. I'm just like, at least 3 or 4 of these, like, it's just egregious. Like, I don't know what Chris could have did, but regardless, Chris Olave, talented receiver. People debate, is he a number one? Is he not? Is he a number 2? I feel like this is the year. And barring injury, I think that we can see, can Chris Olave, can he take up the mantle as a number 1? Can he lead a receiver corps? The guys behind him are Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks. He has young quarterbacks throwing to him. He has to prove, can he stay on the field? And then is he the guy? I think he's shown the talent, but the durability is huge. So that's really it. Chris Olave has to prove that he can stay on the field, that he can play football. And that's truly it for me.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you went with Chris here, because I think a lot of people would have said Kendre, but I don't think that Kendre, it's a similar situation, and we'll talk more about Kendre. I know we have some comments on it, so we can get into that in the mailbag. But like Kendre, it's kind of like, okay, we'll see, right? But he's not the Alvin Kamara of your offense. Like, Chris Olave is the star wide receiver in your offense.
Yeah.
If you don't have Chris Olave, you do not have a wide receiver room.
No.
You have a bunch of guys that you're hodgepodging together, and you're like, well, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you don't get very far in the NFL without at least one stud wide receiver. Like, yes, some teams have been able to make it work. The Saints were able to make it work when they had an elite superstar quarterback. Saints don't have that. When you don't have that, you need the wide receivers to make the car go. Exactly. And I do think Chris is that.
Yeah.
The problem is, like you mentioned, like when you have a highlight reel, I guess it's a low light reel of the hits you've taken throughout your career on YouTube at all. It's a bad sign.
Yeah.
And the reason I think Chris can be a number 1 in the NFL right now is because you're not supposed to be able to the defense isn't supposed to hit you the way they've been hitting Chris.
That's true.
Like that hit from Xavier Woods, like everyone wants to put it on Derek Carr, and that's fine. Complain about Derek Carr. He's gone. He can't hurt you anymore. But even if that ball was on target, Xavier Woods is going to the head.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you have defensive players head hunting, it doesn't really matter. You're going to get hurt.
That's true.
So it's something the NFL needs to figure out. And that should be suspensions for hits like that.
Agreed.
That said, it hasn't taken hits like that to give Chris Olave a concussion, and that's the more concerning part.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like in year 2, that concussion he had against the Falcons, it was just a long, like he just went up and caught a ball, got his legs taken out, landed on his head. Like that wasn't a big hit. That was just, well, you're not very durable.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing in his rookie season when the touchdown grab against the Seahawks. Like,
Seahawks.
He didn't get hit. The ground hit him.
The ground hit him. Yeah.
Even that hit against Tampa, I didn't think that was a huge hit. Like, he just seems to get concussions easily. And that's the concern I have. And it's concerning because, again, if Chris isn't your guy, you don't have a guy.
You don't have a guy. Right?
You suddenly are building an offense from scratch at the wide receiver position. And yeah, maybe you can go out and spend some money, but you don't, like, it's tough to bring in an elite wide receiver on the free agent market. Like, you look at what some of these guys are getting paid. Like, the Saints are cleaning their cap up a little bit, You're still not throwing $30 million at a free agent wide receiver. And which one of them are going to want to come here?
Yeah.
You're going to have to build in the draft. And I don't want to be in a position where I go into next year's draft being like, we either have a wide receiver or nothing in the first round.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like, honestly, in hindsight, like I remember when we were approaching the draft, a lot of guys tabbed us as a team who should look out for a wide receiver. And, I remember we did our list. I said, yeah, we need a big threat. But it actually is more than a big threat. We need another guy because if Chris Olave, like you said, if he's gone, we don't have a guy. And I don't know why that wasn't a thought prior. But it's the
It's
truth.
been a thought.
Yeah, it has been a thought, but I guess at least in terms of the urgency of it, for me, it kind of has sparked because when you speak about the wide receiver market, like you said, first of all, it's extremely inflated. Second of all, wide receivers are known to be kind of divas, so they're going to teams that are winning. Like you said, guys aren't going to sign to a team that's losing. Tyreek Hill got to the Dolphins. He's been there for 2 years. He's already asking for a trade. So it's just like the nature of the position. And Chris Olave, I hope, my hope is that he can stay on the field. He's talented. I mean, I think he's shown himself to be somewhere in the vicinity of Garrett Wilson, and I would take a receiver like that as my best receiver. Yeah, the talent isn't a question. I do think the league definitely needs to look a little bit more into the hits, for sure. It seems like he's a little targeted. But yeah, I definitely think that he's shown it. He's definitely shown it. This is just the year, the stamp of approval, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any question that he can physically do it. Like, he is a wide receiver one, in my opinion. Like, we can have that debate. I think he is, but he's got to be able to be there, and the Saints picked up his option. They're paying him $16 million next year, regardless. But it would feel a lot better if he gets through a 17-game season. He goes for 1,200, 1,400 yards. Like, I know he's capable, 6 to 8 touchdowns. He's more of a deep threat because I think that duo with him and Shaheed is good.
It's lethal. Yeah, I like it.
Is it elite? I don't know, but it's a really good duo, and you can build on that. But without Chris, you can't build the plane out of Shaheed. As much as I love Shaheed, you can't build the plane out of Shaheed. So I'm glad you went there because I agree. I think Chris is the story of this season. In a year where it might go badly, like, you can still feel real good if you come out of it feeling like Tyler Shuck is the guy, Chris Olave is the guy. You have the offensive line, and you're creating something.
Yeah, I agree.
If you don't have Chris and Tyler Shuck doesn't show up, or Spencer Rattler doesn't show up, then you could feel like you're just kind of lost in the wilderness. And that's where we've been for 4 years now.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of swings, a lot of swing factors for sure.
But all right, that's going to be the end of that segment. I'm Jeff Nowak. He is Deven Johnson. Those are the 6 players who have the most to prove, per the Bible of Deven. And we're going to come back. If you're listening to this on the podcast feed, you're going to hear an interview that I did with Scott Shanle, former Saints linebacker, Super Bowl champion. That will post separately on YouTube in the coming days. So look out for that. If you are watching this on YouTube, you're going to get a live mailbag edition, kind of a make good edition for the one we meant to have last week and failed to do that. Thanks, StreamYard. And that will post in the podcast feed at a later date. So we're trying stuff. You asked us to try stuff. We're trying stuff. We're going to do it. Make sure you get your comments, questions in the feed. We'll get to as many as possible. It's kind of a slower stream day, but the numbers are starting to tick up. So hopefully we can get some more folks in here. Again, I'm Jeff Nowak. He is Deven Johnson. We will be right back. All right, we're gonna get this kicked off. There you go. I was gonna ask if you could center yourself in the frame. This is raw. We'll cut this out for the podcast part of it.
Okay.
Just a heads up, if anyone's confused, since it's going to be a separate episode on the actual podcast, I'm going to do a full intro here. So if you're like, why is he saying this? That is why. But all right, you ready? You good?
Yeah, all good.
Into the mailbag here. All right.
Yeah.
I don't think that worked. I've been trying to get that right, where you kind of just like do a face swipe, but I don't think I get the timing right. All right. Hey y'all, who dat and what is up? I am Jeff Nowak here alongside Deven Johnson again. We're going to go through a mailbag, one that we attempted to get to last week, never actually did. We're doing it this time. We got questions in the feed. We're going to roll through them. Deven, how you feeling? Glad to have you back.
Feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. Happy to be here. As always. Let's get to it.
All right. Now, I'm going to start this with a story that, I've been meaning to tell, but I haven't gotten to it. I don't think we're going to get any questions about the kickers. So I'm going to start off here. I've started collecting cards, and it's Blake Grupe's fault because, I had asked him, like, my friend had gone to, it was a business called Nola House of Cards, and he asked if they had any Saints players, and he took them over. And he's like, yeah, I got this great collection. And he shows him, and like part of his collection is like this mountain of Blake Grupe cards. He got there's like this, like a rainbow basically collection of, like, he has all of them. There's like 26 of them. And he's like, and my friend was like, wow, this guy's a big Blake Grupe fan. And he sent me the picture. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'll go ask Blake about it. And I did. And Blake was like, oh yeah, those are mine.
Wow.
Because there's stories on it. He completed a collection of like every single one. And these are all like inserts. So you can't just, you can buy them, but like you kind of, it's more fun to kind of pull them. Yeah. Right. And so that's just the display for his collection. And he had told me, he's like, yeah, there's a show on that Saturday. It was at the Superdome, like a card collecting convention, whatever. And so I went there and I brought my friend and they introduced himself. And, Blake is a cool dude, right? Like, I don't know if people know Blake very well, but like, I just brought my friend over to just say hi to him. And his son is, I think he's about 9, and he's getting into card collecting. But Blake was like on his way out the door, because we got there late in the day, and he just like shoved like a pile of Saints cards into this kid's hands and said, here you go, have them. And I was like, I didn't ask him to do that. I didn't think he was going to do that. And I was like, to the point I was confused. Like, wait, is he showing them? Yeah, he just gave them to him, which I thought was cool. And so, like, while I'm at this convention, I come up with the idea, I'm going to start collecting New Orleans players. And that has then ballooned into, okay, now I'm going to have a New Orleans collection. I'm going to have a Louisiana collection, and I'm going to have a Saints specific collection. And so this is what I'm going to build out. And I think over time, I'm going to start doing giveaways on the pod to like make people more interested.
Please do. I was just thinking, if you somehow find like a rookie Marshawn Lattimore card, like I might throw something at you for that.
No, I'm going to find them all. That's my goal. It's like my new hobby now. And I did want to show this one off because I found this one. I thought it was pretty dope. This is a Tyrann Mathieu, like rookie signed, whatever you want to call it, auto.
Honey Badger.
The Honey Badger. And the funniest thing, and I'm glad you said that, because on the back of this card, which is funny to me, it says the All-American and 2011 Heisman finalist no longer wants to be known as Honey Badger, which is fine because he's already making a name for himself in the NFL. And I was like, does he? Is that something that happened?
That was true. No, that actually was true. Yeah.
And it's a reminder, like, Tyrann Mathieu, as we know him now, was not always the team leader. Like, yes, he came into the NFL and people were like, I don't know, is he a character risk?
Right.
Like, and the best thing that ever happened to him, and I don't know, I just thought this card looked cool. That's why I went and got it. Is that he got sent to a team with another LSU guy who I will soon have his card in Patrick Peterson. And his locker, Tyrann's locker, was in between Patrick Peterson and Larry Fitzgerald. And if it wasn't for that, I don't think Tyrann Mathieu would be the player he is today. I don't think he makes it in the NFL. Like if he gets drafted by the Saints out of college,
I don't think so either. Yeah, no, the influences, because he talked about that. I remember him talking
he's
about
talked
it.
about it a lot. Like I'm not, breaking news here.
Yeah.
But no, I just think it's kind of a cool thing, and I just thought that was funny to read on the back of the card. Is like at that time he was being like, I don't want people to call me a honey badger anymore. And then he smartly came around because that remains an all-time great, like top 10 all-time nickname.
Yeah, like how could you get rid of that?
Right.
The honey badger with the pick. The honey badger forces the
takes what he wants.
Like, come on.
What he wants. That one, and I have a bunch of cards I'm displaying them. I'll show them off eventually. But like another card I got is one of my other favorite nicknames of all time, which is Mark Duper. He played with Bobby Hebert at Northwestern. He was a really good wide receiver for the Dolphins. His nickname is Mark Super Duper. That's another all-time great nickname. But that's it. That's my way too long card collecting aside. But I did want to share that, and I do plan over time, and that's kind of what I'm telling you is over time. My goal is to collect a lot of these, and then I will start trying to give away some on the stream so that maybe we can get more than 25 people in here for a live stream. How about that? Does that sound good, y'all? What do you think?
I think it sounds good. I mean, I'm pretty sure it got a lot of card collectors. Yeah. Not just for profit, legitimate card collectors.
Yeah, that's my thing. It's like I'm not trying to make money on them, but I am trying to get good deals on them. Like I'm not trying to I got this card for 40.
The Tyrann Mathieu?
If you look it up, it's a good deal. I'm not going to fence it or anything.
Wow.
But I am gonna enjoy it and show it off. But all right, let's get into this mailbag. That you don't all want to hear about my card collection. Michael Skyros says a Sammy Knight card. I don't know if he's saying I should get one or if he has one or either way. Thanks for being here. But let's start with the guy we didn't really talk a ton about, but could have very easily ended up in your list in the last episode for players who have the most to prove, and that's Kendre Miller. John Carter says, I'm guessing Kendre Miller will be one of your top 3 on offense. He wasn't, but he asked, what does he specifically have to show? No doubt he can carry the rock, but what else? And what do you want to see out of Kendre Miller? Because whether he's in your top 3 or not, in terms of have the most to prove, there's no question that just like Chris Olave, he's got a ton to prove. And a lot of it is like, can he be there? Like, can you play? Like, I don't even need 17 games. Can you play in 12? Yeah. Even? Because even then would be like a massive upgrade from what we've seen.
That's a great question. I like Kendre Miller. I would say, what does he have to show? I mean, the most objective and obvious answer would definitely be health and availability. I feel like Kendre, in the times in which I've specifically seen him, and I apologize for not being able to reference the specific games, I like what I've seen from him. He reminds me of, not literally, but sort of like a Pierre Thomas. Like, it's like when I've seen Kendre get the ball and he's just able to like kind of glide for like 4 yards, 5 yards. And I like that. I feel like he's elusive. He's a good running back. I feel like we need to see more carries, more involvement. He has to prove that, he could at least be worthy of the running back rotation. I think, Kamara's getting 20 carries. Can we at least get Kendre getting 10 carries a game? He claimed last year that he was healthy, by the way. So that definitely provides something to question. But yeah, that's it. Just want to see more carries, and he just has to prove that he can be maybe the number 2 guy, because I think our running back room is just a little bit loaded, and with Cam Akers coming and stuff like that. So I think Kendre he might have been forgotten about a little bit. He needs to prove that he didn't just change his number.
It is. I'm glad you brought that up, because like one thing that struck me is like you don't see, it's a 3rd round pick going into year 3.
Yeah, you
don't see a lot of guys change their numbers that late into their career, because in most cases you would hope to be something of a household name. You would hope that some people own that number 25 jersey, and you don't want the fans that actually went out of their way to get a number 25 jersey to suddenly have the wrong number, right? Like it's not like a Mark Ingram who came back and was like, "Oh, CJ's in 22. I can't wear 22. I'll give you a few more jerseys to work on." But like that's just telling of how little Kendre has been able to do. Or he's just like, no one has number 25. Let's see if I can get number 5 going.
Right.
And we'll see. I do think, you mentioned like he said he was healthy. Guys are always going to say they're healthy. He was not healthy last year, right? Like he came out off that last season and he was dealing with a significant ankle injury, the worst ankle injury he's had, one of the first in his career, because he was very healthy at TCU. He came into the NFL with a busted up knee. He really just wasn't able to do what he wanted on that knee. And then like camp didn't go well. Obviously he was coming back and then the season was the season. I don't think he was ever healthy fully, or at least not healthy and in shape. Right. Fast forward to year 2, he had a procedure done in between mini camp and training camp to kind of clean up that ankle. He never really got into the shape he needed to be in. Juice McAllister thinks it has something to do with cutting weight prior to camp. And because team players have contract weights that they have to come in at. And if they don't, they get fined. Right. Yeah. So sometimes if you're a little over, you'll cut. It's like a wrestler almost. So that when you weigh in, you hit that number. Yeah. And so, I don't think he ever really got the hydration right. They were out in California, so he wasn't worried about it as much. And then, you pull a hamstring and suddenly everything goes poorly. And that hamstring pull leads to another thing, okay, you're out of shape again. You hurt your hamstring again. Later in the year, it was a concussion issue. Like against the Packers, I know things weren't going well because he got some calls wrong. And it's like, he hasn't been on the field, right? Yeah. This is a new offense. He wasn't involved all camp. Like he's probably is behind. So like what I need to see this season is in part, I need him to be available all camp. If you miss a day or two, that's fine. That happens. You get little nicks and scrapes. You need a day in the tub, whatever. That's understandable. It cannot be weeks. It cannot be, okay, I'm here 2 days and I missed 3, right? Yeah. Because that's been my issue. It's like, we've seen him on the field. This would be a lot easier if he got on the field and he just couldn't hack it. That's has not been the case. He has been the Saints' best player when he's been on the field in multiple instances, right? In New York last year, like there were points where I felt like he was the only guy who could move the ball against the Chargers last year before he got hurt. Like he's been returning kicks successful. Like there's been so many situations that it's like, man, if you could just get like, I don't know, instead of 8 reps, 20 reps,
that's it.
Then I feel good about it. But like you said, like Cam Akers is 25 years old, former 2nd round pick. Like there's a track record there that's going to be like intriguing, right? Yeah. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 1st round pick. He's 26 years old. Yeah. He wasn't really in shape last year, but even he looked like he had some juice. So, you look at him, you look at Deven Neal, who's a rookie 6th round pick.
Deven Neal,
that a lot of people like, and you see him move around. He's got a lot to like. And then even like a Marcus Yarns out of Colorado, I always want to say Colorado, Delaware, not the same, completely different sides of the country. But for some reason, I mixed those states up. Like he's got a lot to like. So Kendre's not going to walk into a job this year. He's got to go out and earn it. And the only way he earns it, in my opinion, is if he is there all camp, if he is available all camp and in the preseason. Because if he can't be, then that 3rd round pick label is not going to save him again.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. Availability is the best ability. It's cliche, but it's so true.
It's cliche for a reason, right?
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
All right. Jan Doe has a kind of a fun one. Says, sorry, I'm late. What's up with the uniform? Only wear black helmets with a black uniform. Yeah. What are your feelings about that alternate uniform with the black helmet? It's been very polarizing.
So I know the last 2 seasons we started doing the all white. We basically replaced our color rush with black helmets. What do we now have something new? We have black uniform, gold pants with black helmet, or
yeah, I don't know what they intend to do. They have options. My take on it is I hate that little fleur-de-lis stripe. I wish it was just flat black.
Oh,
take that weird fleur-de-lis stripe off the middle, and I think it looks way cleaner.
Yeah.
Like give it. I would even take a little matte finish on it. Like I don't need it shiny. it would look a little arena football-y, but like I kind of like I want to lean into just simple, all black, all white. And like the problem, one of my problems with it is the reason it looks the way it does is because they let Sean decide what it was going to look like, and then Sean up and left. So why are we still? Can we? Let's change it. Let's update that, because I hate that little, like, just take those stickers off the middle, and
No,
it looks way clean.
I think we're overdue, and honestly, maybe a little bit different than like the stitching and the logos. We need like something's up with our coloring. Like, I don't know who brought it to my attention, but
the golds are different.
The golds of like the mid 2000, like it had this like pearlescent kind of look to it. Like now we just got some like flat beige or whatever. I don't really care for it. I don't care for it.
Well, and one of my problems is the gold on the helmet doesn't match the gold on the jerseys. It's like a different color. Like, I don't know what the hex color, like, what a hex code is. Like, if you're messing with like graphics, you type it. Like, it's like they just got a typo in there and they ended up with the wrong hex code. And it's like, guys, this is an NFL team. We should be able to match these colors. Like, and that's the minimum.
And we need an alternate. Why are we the one team that's like alternate-less? Like, I feel like us and the Raiders are the two most mundane teams uniform-wise.
Browns. Don't sleep on the Browns. They literally have helmets without logos on them.
But even that is crazy. But even they have 3 colors. I just want 3 colors. I just want us to have a gold top.
They also have that like weird looking Keebler elf thing going on, which I will never fully understand.
Keebler elf.
He looks like a Keebler elf. He looks like he should be working in a tree baking cookies and but no, I also think like I can't remember which game they wore it, but they have that throwback fleur-de-lis that looks different. It's a little thinner. I think that's a way better looking fleur-de-lis than the one that they have on the contemporary helmets. So I wouldn't mind seeing that a lot more.
Black helmet has to go. Go ahead. I agree. Black helmet has to go.
All right, cool. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind the all black helmet. I just hate the little gold stripe.
The gold stripe in the middle.
Looks good. If you went all black with a black helmet, I think you would look fast.
Yeah.
Good luck keeping up with Shaheed. He's gonna get speeding tickets. He's gonna get speeding tickets going the speed limit because they're like, well, he just looks fast in that anyway.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's my take. All right. Ahmed Hassan says the Saints should be operating as if Olave will be unavailable and possibly forced into retirement early. I don't think that's true. I think next year you have to think about it that way. Because if you have another season this year like you did last year, because here's the thing, like, it doesn't really matter how you're operating right now because you already committed to paying him on that 5th-year option. So this year you're just hoping for the best. And Michael Skyro says, why can't you force a player to wear a Guardian helmet or a specific type of helmet? Yeah, I mean, it's up to the player, right? Like, I agree. Chris should be in a Guardian cap. I don't think he's going to wear one. He should be in one. He did switch helmets last year. But, like, next year is when you really have to be talking about that. Because if you can get through 17 games and feel like, okay, we're in a good place, then you can consider, hey, we're going to give him a big contract extension and move on and move forward with this look. If he can't, if he has another concussion, if he misses 4, 5, 6, 7 games, then next year you're kind of just riding it out because you have to operate it this way. You have to operate as if we can't give him a 5-year extension. He might not play 2 years of it.
Yeah. And then it's like, I guess the thing is like, okay, if the Saints were to operate as if Chris will be unavailable, I guess what would that look like in practice? Like you say, we can't, we have to operate as if Chris Olave is the guy. He's the best receiver we have. He has to be on the field. He has to be available. I mean, we have to operate as if he will be available because last year we had to adjust to him not being there. So, again, I agree 100%. I think, we have to expect him to be there this year, next year, sure. There's going to be big questions about Olave. But and for that other thing, it's funny that they mentioned the Guardian caps. They actually had a panel at the Super Bowl, NFL Next Gen Stats, and they were talking about player safety. And I asked the panel of Greg Olsen, Troy Vincent, and Cynthia Freeland, I think, I asked them, what is the viability of Guardian caps being standard going forward? And they actually said that, like, it's completely up to the players' discretion now. Guardian caps have been in use for about 2 years. I think a lot of people have seen what's the safety for the Bills? I'm sorry.
The Bills?
That guy that had Ham. What's his name? Hamlin. Damar Hamlin.
I mean, his wasn't a head injury, but yeah, he is wearing a Guardian cap.
He wears a Guardian cap, and
which wouldn't have helped him.
I don't want to.
He could have been wearing a literal cloud on his head. He would not have solved his problem when it happened.
I feel bad for laughing at that, but no,
I mean, it's true. Like, it's just funny that he is kind of the face of it when it had nothing to do with his head. Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah, but no, I'm just, to Michael's point, I think it's a great point, because I guess the real question is, I see a Guardian cap as an extension of shoulder pads. Why not just wear it? Like, what is the detriment of wearing a normal helmet if it's showing that, or if it's proven to still be concussable, So, like, I agree 100%. I mean, sure,
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you the reason.
Why? It looks goofy?
Because it looks stupid.
Yeah, it looks goofy. Who cares? The aesthetic of it is goofy. Who cares?
I mean, I agree with you, but that's the reason. Like, you want a reason. Like, players just don't want to wear those things.
Cool.
So the solution is make it non-optional.
Make it non-optional.
Because here's the thing: if everyone's wearing it, and everyone has to wear it in training camp, everyone has to wear it in practice.
They do.
So, find a way to incorporate it fully into the helmets. Like, why not just have the helmets? Sorry, that's my timer. Why not just have the helmets be padded on the outside?
And that's
just be part of the helmet.
That's actually what Troy Vincent said. Now that you just reminded me, he claims that they have incorporated the technology from the Guardian caps inside of the standard helmets, but it's just harder to, I guess, see it, because you can visually see the padding, that extra padding on the outside. I think it matters. Yeah,
the hard shell. I mean, at the end of the day, a hard shell is going to be different impacting something than a soft
exactly
shell. And I talked to a couple helmet people at the Super Bowl as well, and it's the first time I had seen one of them close up. It is actually remarkable when you look inside those things at, like, the technology in them. Like, they're trying.
Yeah,
there's only so much you can do when a hard head hits another hard head. Things are gonna happen. But all right, let's take a quick break, come back, and do the second half of this mailbag. I'm Jeff Nowak. He is Deven Johnson. You are the listener. If you haven't put a comment in, please do that. Hot takes. If you want to see more of my card collection, if you have any requests, I got a few others up there. I could show you. I can't give them to you, but I can show you. got a sweet Lenny. I got a Peyton Manning rookie card. I'm having fun with it. Anyway, but I'm Jeff Nowak. He is Deven Johnson. We will be right back on Inside Black and Gold. Stick around. Rolling back in on Inside Black and Gold. Jeff Nowak alongside Deven Johnson, coming back. One more segment of the mailbag here. Got a few more comments, questions to get through, but there's still room. You got them. You got takes. Let it all out. I finally remembered to put up the actual banner that I made specifically for this mailbag segment, and I always forget to actually hit the button, but I did this time. Also, Jan Doe says hit the like. Please, I support this channel. Thank you for that. If you're watching and you haven't hit the like button yet, please do that. Hey, if you have friends who listen to podcasts, family members who you can harass, that's always helpful. Word of mouth is really the only way to build a podcast. Like, you can spend all the money in the world. The only way that people start listening to podcasts is by people they trust telling them that this is a podcast that they should listen to. That is, at the end of the day, that's the only only way to actually grow a podcast. And so anyone, if you have a recommendation, that is the mint. But all right, let's go. We're going to go to Who Dat Saints fan here. First question says, hot take, wide receiver Brandon Cooks will have comparable stats to his stats last year, only about 30 catches for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. I don't know how hot a take that is. I think here's the thing. If he has more than that, like if you're talking about 60 catches, 600 yards, 5 touchdowns, it's probably a sign that we didn't get what we needed to get out of Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, because those are the numbers I want Brandon Cooks to be at, because that means that he's not that involved in the offense and he's more of a situational guy, a chain mover. Because that's what I want out of Brandon Cooks. I don't want to be relying on Brandon Cooks to be a premier piece of this offense, as much as I like Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, that's tough. 30 catches for 300 yards, 2 TDs. I would say that's solid. I mean, wide receiver core wise, Brandon Cooks is our third receiver. But I would say maybe in the pecking order of receiving threats, for us, he might be 4th behind Olave 1, Shaheed 2, Deven Johnson, I would assume to be the 3rd most targeted, and then him. So, yeah, I mean, I think that this wouldn't be bad. And I think also the stats I don't know if these stats would necessarily justify the impact that Brandon Cooks could have. Brandon Cooks is a veteran receiver. You know, he is a deep threat. He's smart. He has great hands. He's also reliable. You know, he's been on a lot of different teams and he's produced on essentially every team he's been on. So, yeah, I wouldn't really be mad at this, I guess. You know, I actually think he might have a little bit more just because of, I don't know, it's Brandon Cooks. I mean, he can give you, I would say, at least 400 yards, 500 yards. So I think this might be a little underwhelming, but yeah.
Yeah, and he did that last year in how many games? 8? He played 4, 8, 11. So he did it in 11 games, right? If he plays in 17 games, I would expect his total to be a little higher than this. But yeah, I mean, it's really a question of what you're looking for in the offense. Another question here from Michael Skyros says, how many catches will Deven Johnson have? Seems like a more favorite. And I think this is a good question. But I'm not going to answer the question that's asked, because catches are circumstantial, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't control how many catches a guy gets. You can control how many targets, how many opportunities you give a guy to make a play. And like, whether Deven takes advantage of those opportunities, I'm not sure. But if I'm the Saints, right, my goal should be that I want Deven Johnson to be, he's paid to be a top 10 tight end. I'm going to give him top 10 tight end usage. And that would be, and I looked this up, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that would be somewhere in the range of 80 to 90 targets. That's
what I was thinking.
Right?
Yeah,
now, you're not going to give him something crazy like Brock Bowers last year. Like, everyone wants to talk about Brock Bowers, but then when no one ever brings up is he had an absolutely redonkulous number of targets for anybody in the NFL, not just the tight end. Like, this dude, yes, he had 112 catches, 5 touchdowns, 1,194 yards. He got 153 targets.
That's insane.
153 targets. That's like Michael Thomas levels of usage.
Prime Mike. Yeah, that's prime Mike.
Like, in 2019, when Mike set the NFL record for catches with 149, he only had 185 targets, right? Brock Bowers, in his rookie season, had 153 targets. That's absurd. Just off the top of your head, how many targets would you guess Deven Johnson got last year?
Last year, I would say he probably got about 70.
A little under 70. He got 66, which was a career high for him. One more than he had in 2022, which was 65. 2022 was the year that kind of his breakout year, right? He was his career high, well, not his career high in receiving yards. He had that this past season, but he had 508 yards, 7 touchdowns. And that's when you signed him to that 2-year contract extension that you've just signed him to another extension this year. But if I'm paying him $10 million a year, that number's got to be higher, right? Like I got to be getting him into the 90 to 95 target range. And if I do that and his catch rate stays where it is, you're looking at a guy who's pushing 700-800 yards, probably 5 to 8 touchdowns. And that puts him in the top 10 tight ends, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. For me, it's like I'm paying Deven Johnson as a top 10 tight end. I got to get him top 10 tight end usage, or that's a waste of money.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Like, there's nothing wrong with the question, but it is like more so the application. Like Jeff says, you know, Deven Johnson can have 50 catches and only have 400 yards. You know, maybe he caught all screen passes. Of course, that would never happen. But it's more so about, I guess, the consistency, because even for me, I've said this before, Deven Johnson has a weird trend of kind of piling on his stats in spurts. Towards the end of the year. So if we see him early, like there's no telling, you know, like Dallas Goedert had the ridiculous game that he had against us, and he didn't have a crazy year, you know, receiving yards and catches wise. So it's harder to look at it on that kind of level. Again, it's just about the consistency. If Deven is getting, I guess this is a better way to look at it. I feel like if Deven gets 5 targets a game, maybe 5 to 8, that'd be really good. That would be pretty good. And he can hit that 70 marker for targets on a year.
Be about 85 targets if he plays all 17 games, which he did. That's a big thing for him, is he played all 17 games last year for the first time in his career.
Yeah, that is big too. So yeah, you know, it's just about the consistency of targets that he's getting per game, the way they were using him, and his ability to convert, you know, which is the catch, you know, if he can catch the ball. So
yeah, and here's the thing, like if you say like 90 targets, 85, 90 targets, it sounds like a lot, but yeah, like it's 5 targets a game.
Yeah.
Right? Like you should be able to get your star tight end 5 targets a game.
5 targets a game, yeah.
And if you can't, it means he's not being featured in your offense enough.
Exactly.
Because there's no way you're telling me that if you are running plays for Deven Johnson, right? If he is your primary on, I don't know, 8 to 10 plays a game, that he's not getting open 5 of those times, to the point where you can at least throw the ball to him and let him go make a play. Now, he doesn't catch them all, but like that's how it's I think a lot of times we look at the end result and we don't stop to question, like, okay, but how did we get there? Like, why aren't we looking at it as when are you going to actually take advantage of him?
Right.
And they didn't until the end of last season, when they didn't have a choice.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
All right, let's get to a couple more questions here. Are you like at a rave? What's going on? We've
me? No, purple. I'm sorry. That's my Roku TV is illuminating off the wall. Yeah, that's all that is.
It just suddenly turned purple. I was like,
I don't know what's going on.
Like, it's some crazy street glow going on. I feel like I'm in Fast and the Furious over here. All right. So, who dat Saints fan? Just going back to our last episode, their list for offense would be 3 Kendre Miller, number 2 Trevor Penning, number 1 quarterback, which similar, right? You know, we had Olave in there. You had quarterback at number 3, but similar. John Carter's in here, says from Washington, D.C. Appreciate it. Big fan of yours.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate that, man. I really do.
All right. Let's see if we can get to one more.
He spelled my name right, too. It's Deven like 7, nice? Guys. It's Deven like 7. Deven
Isn't
like
it nice
7.
when people spell names right?
It is. I wish I could be named Jeff.
No, you don't. And every time someone was like, "Do you spell it with a G?" and you're like, "No."
Jeff.
All right.
It says Steve Jeff.
Oh no, it said that this whole time. I'll replace it in post. I can't actually because this is live. 50. See, that's why. Like you should. See, I had one. I clicked the wrong one.
We're good.
It's my bad. It's my bad. Yeah. In case you're wondering, that's not Steve. I don't know what gave it away. But all right, Michael Skyros again. And I think this is a good point. It says run defense is 50% technique and discipline and 50% attitude. I think defense in general, right? Like in any sport, is willingness.
Yeah,
right.
It is.
Like one of the reasons CJ Gardner-Johnson is a great nickelback in the NFL is because he has an attitude of, I don't care how big that guy is, I'm going to run through his face. Now, sometimes it doesn't work out for him. Sometimes that guy runs through his face, but at the beginning of that play, he always believes I'm going to run through that guy's face. And he doesn't stop for a second to think like what the consequences might be. And that's what you need. If you're out there making business decisions on defense, you've already lost.
Yes.
It's one of the things like with a Tyrann Mathieu that I can actually get behind of like the criticism. Like I'm a huge Tyrann Mathieu fan. But like he's smaller. He's 5'9". Like sometimes you can see out there like, yeah, okay, I'm going to try to angle this one out of bounds. Yep. No, I'm not going to lay my life on the line at 34 years old trying to take a running back through the chest. And at this point in his career, it's probably smart because if he takes too many of those hits, he's probably going to get hurt and you lose him, and then that damages your defense. At the same time, like that's why I love Alontae Taylor, because I feel like he's like that.
He is.
He has no regard for his own
fear at all. Seeing Alontae attack screens in the backfield with like I've seen Alontae, I think it was in a Chargers game. Or no, it was a Steelers game. I remember it was like Pat Freiermuth or somebody caught the ball in the backfield. Alontae came full sprint out of like a flat zone and cracks him. I was shocked. I didn't expect it, but he definitely plays with that heart, that intensity. I agree. I love seeing it. As an undersized player, I love seeing it.
You need that. Like, you need to just go out there with the mentality you're going to beat somebody up, because like I don't care. You could spend all your life working on technique. If you don't have the heart, you're not gonna win on defense.
You took the words out of my mouth. I wanted to say that, Michael, I'm not really attacking you, but if anything, it's really more so, I don't know, 80% attitude, 80% heart that goes into defense, that really goes into sports. Sure, defense, is physical and football is a violent game, but there's a lot of things that are covered under the umbrella of attitude. That's determination, that's dedication, that's mindset, that's your ego. So if you don't have a good balance of all of these things, technique means nothing. You have to have the attitude to practice, to want to get better, to be accountable, to listen to your coaches and know what you have to improve on, so I just wanted to say that, I think a lot of people don't really accentuate the intangibles, the heart, attitude part of the game. That's the mental part is so much more important than the physical part. So yeah.
I agree with you. Okay, one more question, and it's from Who Dat Saints fan again. The question is, so we were talking in the last episode about, okay, how would you pay Alontae Taylor prior to this season? And the question is, how much would you pay Alontae Taylor, and how much do you think he'll demand on the open market after a good year this year? He says, I think he'll demand something in the $15 to $20 million range. And, it's an interesting question, 15, right? And, so let's see. Let's go to the salary rankings. And
I think Lattimore is still getting paid in that range.
Yeah, I mean, Lattimore is still getting paid on his contract. Paulson Adebo was making $18 million a year, so that would be kind of right in that range. You didn't pay Paulson Adebo. I think part of that is because the health, and you were changing defenses, and you don't need that kind of physical man corner the way you did previously. Yeah. But like, would you pay Alontae Taylor what the Giants paid Paulson Adebo, which was like 3 years, $54 million?
Great question, and I'll be honest. The answer is no. I can justify why. It's crazy. I spoke so highly of Alontae. Paulson Adebo is a playmaker. Like, Paulson Adebo is one of those guys that
took the ball away.
He takes the ball away, and and he's done it in critical moments. He's done it in moments that you don't expect. He's made one-handed catches. Those are kind of things that justifies being a top 10 or 15 paid at your position. Alontae, as good as he is, first of all, we still don't know what his position is. Second of all, he does need to show some improvement in terms of his ball skills. I think he's been in position on a number of targets, and he's simply just been unable to come up with what appears to be maybe an easy interception or something like that. So, yeah, ball skills and the ability to generate turnovers, that greatly impacts your marketability. And I think because of Alontae's lack in generating turnovers, of being, that playmaker at corner, I don't think, he'll be able to demand that, to be honest.
Yeah, one of my pieces of advice for him will be next time Colin Saunders is like trying to take the easy interception, let him take it. I don't even know. Most people probably didn't even see that because they had turned off that Packers game by that point.
Yeah.
But, we had almost had like an ultimate fat guy interception and probably scores a touchdown on it. And instead we got shut out on national television. So that's my advice is anytime Colin Saunders is there to catch an interception, let him have it.
Let him have it.
I would prefer to see him run. It's way more fun. Like the highlight, I would argue that the highlight of last year was that interception against
that interception in the Chiefs game. Yeah, no, that was
my
that
dad,
was
who lives in Connecticut and does not watch the Saints. He's a Giants fan. He occasionally pays attention to what's going on with the Saints because he likes to support me, but like he doesn't care. He called me to be like, I saw that big guy running back the interception. He's fast. I'm like, I know. The way I describe him is he's like an alligator. Like people, you wouldn't look at an alligator and be like, that thing's fast. But like if you get that thing going in a straight line, catch up with a dog, like those things, you don't see it. It starts moving. You're like, wow, it's so strong. That is a dinosaur. It's complicated, but like that's Colin, right? Like that's one of the reasons he is able to get some sacks on quarterbacks. If you go back and watch the game against the Chargers, like he had a sack on Justin Herbert, and I guarantee you, if you ask Justin after the game, he'd be like, I didn't think he was going to get there that fast. When he puts his feet in the ground and just like gets all his weight going forward, it's remarkable how fast that man can churn his legs. If you hear that dinging, I'm trying to be more time sensitive of like these segments.
Oh no, you're good. Yeah,
I'm talking to the listeners, Deven. This is not. It's not everything's about you.
My bad.
I'm just kidding. But no, yeah, like I agree. So Michael Scarra says like, yeah, throw a block. Like if you see a big dude catching a ball, go block. Don't try to take the ball from him. Go block.
Yeah,
because I want to see that dude score, especially if it's Colin. Like sometimes you'll see offensive linemen catch an interception or defensive linemen catch an interception, and you could tell like after about 10 yards, they're like, someone tackle me. Like Collins, he wants to take it. Like he wanted to take that 99 yards to the house, and honestly, he almost did. Like
no, he seriously did. Like he really.
He gets one. He makes one guy miss, which is it's tough to make a guy miss when you're 300 pounds. Like he's going. It's a long way to run, but I think he could have done it.
And that's what I was going to say, too, to Michael's point. I would say the best part of interceptions is you get to see people throwing a block for a big guy, but then you get to see what guys could play on the other side of the ball. Like, have you – I vividly remember when Lattimore – this was, Christmas, his rookie year. He got an interception on Julio Jones. This man, Julio Jones, literally ran like a 4-1. He went straight 99 speed, caught this dude, and just tossed him to the ground like it was nothing. Like
Julio is a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, like he's just like I've never been more like you see a lot of wide receivers drafted, and sometimes I'm just like I don't know. Does he have it? Like, can he hold up in the NFL? Like especially like a Chris Olave, for example. Like he's an elite receiver, but it's like he doesn't have the physicality. Like I never wondered that about Julio Jones. I was like that dude's scary.
Yeah.
Even in Alabama, like I remember watching him and be like he's different. Like you throw him the ball because he's not getting tackled. Like, it's not just like he catches it. He catches it, and then, like, one of those little guys has to try to tackle him, and they're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And he gets an extra 10, 15 yards every time you get the ball in his hands. Like, that was Julio. DK is kind of like that. DK had a play similar to that, where he got up to, like, 25 miles an hour catching, like, running down a guy on an interception.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you. I agree with you. I don't even know what my thread was there. Board Elise says, wait, Michael Skyro says, I would have loved to see Taysom on defense. Yeah, I agree with that.
I feel like Taysom should have played safety at least 2-3. I'm just not understanding why we never tried it. Like,
he keeps getting hurt.
I guess
barely keep him on offense. One thing I would like to see is Kellen go back to the tape from 2023 and be like, whoa, so we can have Colin Saunders as our lead blocker? Let's do it. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's true.
Why not? He wants to do it. He's begging to do it. He won't shut the hell up about it. Let him do it.
No, I'm with
it. Like, if you're going to run power and you don't have a fullback anyway, just throw Colin in there.
Big Colin. Yeah.
Full bank.
Honestly, we could use him at goal line back too. Why not?
Full bank. I want to see him score a touchdown. They actually did draw up a play in that year to get a ball to Colin, and they covered him. And it was like, what are you doing?
Wait, I remember that.
Like, the ball was supposed to go to him, but they actually covered him. And I was like, man, that's some respect right there.
That was respect. I actually,
like, you call that play because you're like, they're just going to ignore him. They're not going to, and they covered him. So this is the one more question, and we will get to it, and then we will close out. Bordelise says, surprise cut of 2025, Tyrann Mathieu. Now, I do not think that Tyrann Mathieu is really in the radar of being a surprise cut. Who is your surprise cut? If you had to pick somebody, I'll give you I'll vamp here for a second so that you can think about this. One surprise cut. Who would it be, offense or defense, and why?
Wow, that is hard. A surprise cut. I don't think it would be Tyrann Mathieu.
I don't think so.
But honestly, I feel like it would have to be maybe one of our running backs. Like,
and that's a tough one because I don't know. Would that be a surprise?
I mean, no, but like, we kind of need everybody. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think it would have to be Kendre. That would be my surprise cut. Like, let's say all of the running backs in the RB room kind of outperform him, or he has a setback maybe. You know, of course, I'm not wishing any of this, but if he were to suffer that, I think that he could find himself being on the wrong end of it for sure. I think that would be a surprise cut. But Tyrann Mathieu, I mean, he just cut his hair. We're not cutting him. Like, we need him. So, the Honey Badger's here to stay. Maybe a quarterback. I think Jake Haener, maybe. Like, do we need him? I'm sorry. Like,
I wouldn't see. It's tough because I don't know. Like, there's some guys who could get cut. I don't know if it's a surprise. I'd go with Foskey. Just because it's not typical to see a second round pick cut ever, let alone in year 3. But you have so many defensive linemen, so many edge options that if he doesn't show something,
that's true.
I don't think special teams is going to save him.
Yeah, that's true. Foskey that's a great pick.
Maybe I don't think it's going to be Tyrann. Now, if you like a surprise, if you want to go like, and I think one of the reasons we're not landing on any surprises is because we are not thinking far enough outside the box of what would be surprising. We're kind of trying to land on being right.
Exactly.
If we're trying to find someone who could get cut that we do not expect, it's tough.
It's tough. That's a great question. I like the name, by the way, Bordelise. That's like
that. That's given name. That's actually the legal name, believe it or not. Like Matt Hayball, I think gets cut, but that's not a surprise. Yeah, I'm going Foster.
Moreau?
Yeah.
That's who I was just saying just now. I was thinking that too. I'm like, Foster Moreau? Maybe.
And it's not because the team doesn't like him. It's just like if you get in a numbers crunch and he's not healthy.
Yeah.
You could end up there.
This is third year too, right? Am I just second year? No, because he had that drop against the Jaguars.
It's his third year.
Yeah. So yeah.
And so who dat Saints fan? So one other. So if it's not Foster, Cam. So I actually think if we're going like Cam could get cut, don't think he will, but like what would be kind of something that's like plausible in reality that seems unlikely, Cam is probably on that list. You're probably right.
That's the biggest surprise.
I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying it's likely, but if we're trying to find like outside the box, like stunning cuts that may happen, sure, I'll give you Cam. Just because it's like I'm talking about guys who have a role but may not be able to fill that role because for whatever reason it just doesn't work out. Like if he goes out there and just can't pack it at an edge rusher role, are you going to cut somebody you like that you feel like can contribute to keep the veteran around? In a lot of cases, probably.
Yeah, I just feel like we're not at a position to where we could afford to cut some of these guys that would be a surprise. Like we cut Tyrann Mathieu, who replaces him.
Right. They don't have a safety to. I mean, Jonas Sanker.
Safety.
You know, like the no, you're not. Yeah. I'm not cutting Tyrann to throw Terrell Burgess back there.
Exactly.
Right.
Terrell Burgess
is my dark horse to make the roster.
Okay.
No one's talking about him.
I'm keeping an eye on him.
Keep an eye on him. He's wearing number 24, and I know that because during the last day of minicamp, which was the second day of minicamp, I kept having to look at my roster and be like, "Who the hell is 24?" Oh, it's Terrell Burgess. Okay.
But
this is the time of year, and this is where I'll end on. Like, this is the time of year where I always or at least last week was the time of year where one of the things I make note of is who's on the field constantly, who's getting used, like who's got a ton of usage that I didn't expect. A couple of years ago, it was Ike Adam, and that's why I felt like, okay, this guy's going to make the team. Terrell Burgess is that guy this year, number 24, safety, familiar with Brandon Staley. They signed him after a tryout. Clearly, they like something.
Yeah. Okay.
Dark horse, Terrell. Keep an eye on him.
No Katy Perry.
Okay, I got nothing. I got nothing for that. All right. I'm Jeff Nowak. He is Deven Johnson. Thanks so much for spending the time. Deven and the listeners, y'all in here are great. Who dat?
Who dat?
How you feeling, Deven? You feeling good?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
We'll have to do this again. We'll have the rave lighting across the board, not just on your side.
I won't be sick either. Promise that. Will not be sick.
You cannot promise that.
You're right.
All right. Who dat? Go Saints. Easy, y'all.
See you later.